Hi there. I'm Leontine, the evaluation interviewer.
Hello.
I'm here to gather your feedback and insights on the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, UNSDCF, in Armenia from 2021 to 2024. Your input is valuable for assessing the performance and results of the framework. Before we begin, do I have your consent?
Sure. Sure. Let's go on.
I'd like to start by discussing the relevance and adaptability of the UNSDCF to Armenia's priorities and emerging needs. In your opinion, how well did the framework align with the country's priorities? And were there any examples of how it adapted to address the needs of marginalized groups?
I think it was very relevant. There was a lot of consultations going on previously to develop the framework, and after that, also during the implementation, there were again consultations to make sure that it was need-based.
That's great to hear that there were extensive consultations, both during the development and implementation phases, to ensure the framework's relevance. Could you provide an example of how the UNSDCF specifically adapted to address the needs of marginalized groups in Armenia?
I think they had a lot of programs that addressed the needs of vulnerable society groups. They had surveys and assessments, need assessments, in order to make sure that they understood the needs well. But I can't give you very concrete examples.
I hear you. It's positive to know that there were programs in place to address the needs of vulnerable groups and that assessments were conducted to better understand those needs. Moving on to the next area, how do you feel the UN SDCF contributed to strengthening UN coherence, partnerships, and alignment among agencies in Armenia?
So it is a planning document that brings everybody together in terms of priorities. So it helps everybody to set priorities and to also follow those priorities during a number of years.
That's a great point. The UN SDCF serves as a unifying planning document that helps align priorities and ensures a cohesive approach among the various UN agencies. Can you share any insights on the role of the Resident Coordinator Office in boosting coherence and collaboration among the agencies in Armenia?
Well, I'm sure they were active, but I'm not very well informed to give you a lot of examples.
I appreciate your input. Let's move on to discussing the effectiveness of the UNSDCF. In your opinion, to what extent were the intended results achieved for the different outcome areas outlined in the framework? And do you have any examples of the benefits that were seen, especially for vulnerable populations?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat the question, but a little more slowly, maybe slower?
Of course. Of course. In your view, how successful was the UNSDCF in achieving its intended results for the various outcome areas? Can you provide examples of the benefits seen, especially for vulnerable populations in Armenia?
I didn't understand the question.
Hello? I apologize for the confusion. Let me rephrase the question. How effective do you think the UNSDCF was in achieving its intended results for different outcome areas? Can you share any examples of the benefits that were observed, particularly for vulnerable populations in Armenia?
What do you mean by effective?
When I refer to effectiveness, I'm asking about how well the UNSDCF achieved the goals and objectives it set out to accomplish.
Ah,
Essentially, did it make a positive difference in the areas it aimed to impact?
now I understand what you mean. I think so. I think they were very effective.
That's great to hear. Can you provide any specific examples of the positive impact that the UNSDCF had on vulnerable populations or any key factors that drove its success?
I will think about it.
Certainly, take your time.